We would like to welcome Juanita Ferreira. She's a qualified homeopath and she's doing further studies on pediatric neurodevelopment. Welcome to our channel, Juanita.
Thank you so much, Daleen.
You have so much knowledge and I'd love to just find out more about the difference between memory retention and memory enhancement, cognitive decline, optimizing brain function. This is such a big topic. We're going to have to invite you back again to talk about Alzheimer's and dementia. But let's start with the developing brain and looking at children growing up and exam stress. What are the factors that influence memory retention?
Well, there are many factors that can influence memory retention, and very importantly is the ability to focus. Focusing can be inhibited by anxiety, and we know in today's modern age there are so many factors that can actually impact these little kiddies at school, or even students, business people. So something like, for example, just home life, diet is very important as well.
Talk to me about diet. Let's pause there.
Okay, fantastic.
Obviously sugar, excessive sugar can influence focus.
Absolutely.
And what other tips do you recommend?
Perfect. So not only just the foods or the additives that can actually impair memory or concentration, but also that which we lack. I mean, in our diet today, we know that we're not receiving the nutrition we should be receiving. And often we see that because life is so fast-paced, we don't always have the optimal nutrition and the variety of foods that are required. So very importantly is that the brain functions on about 20 to 25% of glucose from the diet. And therefore, if a child or an adult even in that fact is not eating well, the brain can't function. Water intake is very important. And then also things like from your diet fats, healthy fats, from your nuts and other plant fats are very important as well.
And fish oil?
Fish oil, absolutely. Those are the fatty acids, which are your building blocks. And I mean, without those, you're not going to be able to function. And we need to obviously obtain these from the diet.
And exercise and lifestyle. So it's a whole body
Absolutely.
approach.
Definitely. It's a holistic take, and we have to consider all of these factors, even something like sleep being critical to being able to function on a daily basis and to be able to take up information. As you mentioned, the memory retention, that is the ability to actually store that information. So you can sit and be alert and attentive throughout the day, but if you don't retain that, there's really no worth in that time invested into learning. So all of these factors definitely play a role. Exercise, exceptionally important. We see how busy our schedules are, and exercise is also a way of not only taking up oxygen and improving circulation to the body and to the brain, but also managing stress. It's almost just an outlet even for individuals as young as children. So exercise, very important as well.
What can cause mental fatigue?
Well, again, we're working these 25-hour days, and there is just so much sensory information coming in, and the brain also fatigues and gets tired. With chronic stress, we see that inflammation and other processes are ongoing, and this can all exhaust the brain and the nervous system. Really, it's that fatigue. And often we refer to a term as neurasthenia, which is almost a vague disorder where people may complain and say, I feel so tired and I can't concentrate, I'm not sleeping well. But clinically, there is no diagnosis, and this is a self-reported burnout. We are just so tired. Our little sponge, our brain cannot, it's reached saturation. It can't take up more information.
What's the solution?
A holiday. But no, managing stress is obviously the most important, because most of the time we can't eliminate stress. So management of stress, a very nutritious, good diet, sleep, exceptionally important, and then the use of other nutritional supplements that can really add value.
And those, you would use them in an acute management program only?
You can use acutely or chronically. Often it just depends how severe the patient is feeling completely exhausted, or their ability to actually take up information and hold it. Also the age of the patient. If we're comparing a younger business kind of executive patient to an older senior patient, then their needs are different. So it would then be dependent on those kind of factors to decide whether it's acutely or chronically, how much is required, if you would combine it with something else as well.
Tell us about the studies that you're busy with at the moment, and any tips that you have for mothers with young children, what's the do's and the don'ts to ensure optimum brain development?
Well, there are many tips and many factors. So very importantly is treating an individual or a child as an individual. You know, we can't put people into boxes and almost label them. So it's really, as a parent or as a teacher being involved with children so closely, you want to be able to identify what is their specific concern and how they're coping and managing with it, so that you can also optimize their strengths and support their weaknesses. Very importantly is anxiety. Anxiety is one of the biggest obstacles to cure in the respect of learning. So you want to be able to ameliorate that in the best way. Anxiety can also be worse at a different time of the day. Diet again comes into play, where we want to make sure that our lunch boxes are devoid of not only just processed foods, but also all the artificial flavorants, because those are chemical compounds essentially that can also bind to different receptors within the nervous system. And that's where we see interplay can actually happen, and a child is not able to concentrate, an adult is not able to concentrate. And very importantly is water intake. It's something we take very much for granted, but without being hydrated, you actually cannot concentrate. And we know that the body functions, there's so many functions that require this as well.
And if you have a child busy with school exams, is there anything that you can give them, a natural product or an extract that you would recommend to optimize brain function and help with memory retention, concentration span?
Absolutely. I think one of the very popular herbal extracts at the moment is your bacopa.
All right, bacopa monnieri.
Yes.
That's the Ayurvedic herb, right?
Absolutely. And the reason that it's gaining popularity is because of the increasing clinical data on how effectively it can function as a cognitive enhancer. And I think ideally for a younger patient is the safety profile, because you really can make a significant impact in this person's academic performance or work performance as such, without actually having a big side effect profile. And bacopa, the way in which that it works within the nervous system is to improve focus, keeping the patient calm, so a good anxiolytic effect there as well, and working on the processes within the brain and the nervous system that can support and facilitate learning and memory.
So you won't need a whole lot of different things. You could literally take bacopa.
Well,
and there's various different products out there on the market, on shelf, with bacopa in it.
Absolutely, yes. So ideally about bacopa is that you really are getting more than what you bargain for in terms of the anxiety and just coping with stress. I mean, if there's a deadline or you're writing an assessment of some sort, or you just have to sit for a long day and be able to take in a lot of information, your bacopa monnieri is going to support that and be able to optimize cognitive performance.
Is a bacopa remedy equal to any other bacopa remedy on the shelf?
Unfortunately not, Daleen. We know on the market there are just multiple herbal products and supplements, and the consumer has to be a little bit forward in their thinking and in their approach to choosing a product to make sure that the active compound is there, the amount of the concentrate is ideal, or
actually what's in the product is what's on the label.
Absolutely. And that the claims that are being made are met by clinical trials and data, and these are always accessible.
So you're talking about having access to the internet, looking at a product and looking at the data done on that particular product.
Absolutely.
Because if you look at data done on bacopa and you look at the standardization and the extract, you assume as a consumer you can walk into a shop and buy bacopa, and that will give you the benefit as per study.
Yes.
But it's not necessarily the same. As you say, the strength is not there. The dosage might be different. There may be things in there that is not complementing bacopa's mechanism of action. So
Definitely.
you need to look for a product that has its own safety studies and data and research attached to it.
Absolutely. Or even, I mean, we don't even need to go to that detailed level. But for example, the consumer also needs to be aware that there are many products that contain preservatives and contaminants that yield, unfortunately, side effects. So very importantly, just contacting a manufacturer or a distributor within South Africa.
Right.
And usually that kind of accessibility will give the consumer insight into whether this is a good product or not.
So like a helpline.
Absolutely.
Great. Having discussed the developing brain of a child and concentration at school, what about the executive? Is it also bacopa that you would recommend to enhance brain function at work?
It can be bacopa, but again, there can be other requirements of the individual. So for example, complete mental exhaustion and fatigue. So there you can also consider a combination of ginkgo biloba and panax ginseng that can make a nice difference as well.
Why? How do they work?
Well, I think if we think about ourselves, for example, you are doing 400 tasks in a day. It's not from just work. You come home and there's quite a few things to do there as well. So we are completely fatigued, and the nervous system, without us even realizing it, is continuously working, that passive work, and it's sensory information that is coming in all the time. So we are exhausted, and something like your ginkgo biloba and your panax ginseng, a synergistic combination, can make a difference by improving physical and mental energy for the individual that is completely fatigued and just feels like they can't do more, or they are just too tired to continue, especially at this time of the year.
Would you then recommend taking a bacopa product and a ginseng product and a ginkgo product, or should you try and look for combination products just to stop having to take all these different pills?
Yes, all the capsules together.
And what about tea?
Yes, absolutely. Well, the thing is that often you find your combination products won't contain an as concentrated amount. I'm not saying for all manufacturers, but for most. So therefore you would possibly need to take 1 or 2 supplements. Something like bacopa is also ideal for an executive or an adult who is very busy, because we can become so anxious, almost like a headless chicken, so much to attend to, but we can't get done.
Sure.
So the bacopa could just calm the patient, help them to focus and attend to that list, especially if it's an A-type personality. Whereas more with the ginkgo biloba, the fatigued patient who is literally on the floor, so exhausted, is not motivated, can't get going, they could then supplement with the ginkgo. And fortunately, you can combine the two together. For example, something like ginkgo to start your day with and improve energy, and we see that it would start working out of the system within the day. And your bacopa for later, late afternoon, early evenings, because that would help the patient to wind down. And we see that with clinical data with bacopa, it supports REM sleep. Right. And REM sleep is ideal for memory consolidation, the conversion of your short to long-term memories.
So you can remember your dreams as well.
Yes, absolutely. So very importantly is you can actually combine the two together. And you can take it apart, for example, within the day. And just with regards to the difference with teas, so we usually find that with our teas, our herbal teas, these are diluted extracts or combinations of different herbal extracts, whereas when you buy a natural medicine or a herbal product at your health store or your pharmacy, this is a medically therapeutic crude herbal extract. So it's got the right amount of concentration that can actually yield medically therapeutic effects, whereas your tea is really just more supplemental, you could say. Yeah.
So it's like taking a food product, consuming that, and taking extract concentration, like a vitamin and a mineral. It's the same for the herbal, taking the plant in a tea form or taking a highly concentrated extract medicinally.
Absolutely, that's exactly it.
There's a really good product on the market called Ginkgo San, and that includes the ginkgo biloba as well as the ginseng. I need to ask you about the safety in pregnancy and the dosage of that particular product.
So with many of the herbal medicines, you know, if the distributor is responsible in their distribution and following the regulations of medicines in South Africa, you usually see that most of the herbal products are not clinically tested in pregnancy. So it's our advice that you wouldn't take such a supplement during pregnancy. And from a safety perspective, the clinical data really shows that negligible side effect profile. Again, that's not to say that all herbal extracts are safe or natural medicines are safe. You have to be aware that they can be exposed to contaminants, pesticides, pollution, all those kind of things. And very importantly is we want organic extracts. Sure. We want it to be bioavailable to the body and to be absorbed as best as it can be.
Thank you so much, Juanita, for your time. We're going to have you back. I've got so many questions on cognitive decline as we age. So thank you for your time today, and I look forward to having you back with us.
Absolute pleasure, and thank you for having me.